हम अपने पहले सेशन से आगाज करते हैं. We begin the first session on the role of community-driven development and socio-economic empowerment of rural communities in Pakistan. We will be opening the convention with a history of the RSPN movement, which will be presented by the chairman of the RSPN, Mr. Shoaib Sultan. His pioneering work for Pakistan's poor communities, as well as those in South and Central Asia, is well known. Mr. Sultan's talk will focus on the Rural Support Program's approach and its effectiveness. The floor is yours, Mr. Sultan.
Thank you, Anjum. मेरे अजीज LSO मेंबरान, मैं आपसे इजाज़त चाहता हूं कि अपनी तकरीर अंग्रेजी में करूं, क्योंकि आपने ये बातें मेरी सुनी हुई हैं तो आपको दोबारा सुनने की जरूरत नहीं है. Welcome to all distinguished participants who joined in, and what I'm going to present as let me just put this on. It's technology. I'm just going to basically recapitulate the 40 years. This is the 40th year of Rural Support Program. And the first program, can you hear me? Anjum, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you, Mr. Shoaib Sultan. Please continue.
Now, very few people know that the Rural Support Program, especially the Aga Khan Rural Support Program, was based on theory and principles of subsistence holders development, which was distillation of the experience of almost 130 years of the world, beginning with Germany's Raiffeisen, Japan's village assemblies, Taiwan's Joint Commission for Relief and Rehabilitation, East Pakistan's Kumila Project, and South Korea's Sumal Andong, along with many others. My mentor, Ramit Khan, always used to say that these principles are as precise as the law of gravity. Any deviation will result in building crooked walls, which will fall down. And I religiously followed these principles over the last 40 years, first in AKRSP, and thereafter when UN took me to South Asia in India. And I saw that what he said was so true, because if you do not deviate from these principles, then the communities do come up. The poorest of the poor come out of subsistence holding. Now, what is the conceptual sort of development model? What are the principles? Basically, it's based on the assumption that the poor and the landless and assetless have the capacity and are willing to undertake development activities to improve their situation. The RSPs as support organizations enable this potential to be harnessed through a process of, number one, of course, is the social guidance, which basically socially organizes them. Because unless the poor come in an organized fold, individually they cannot be helped. That's what Raiffeisen held. And the second thing is that how do we help them to unleash the potential they have? This is done by upgrading human skills of the poor, such as managerial, productive, cooperative. This enables them to make the best use of the available resources. And of course, everybody knows that capital is power. So as they say, capital attracts. So unless until they follow a discipline of savings, unless they generate their own capital, they will not be able to attract money from outside. Now, why I'm so firm about following this approach and these principles, in fact, my colleagues in RSP get tired of it, listening this again and again. But the fact is that, as Dr. Amit Khan said, that it is as precise as the law of gravity, so I cannot really deviate. And I was very happy when the first assessment of the AKRSP done by World Bank after 5 years, they observed, and I quote, "The order of priorities and phasing of AKRSP is unique. The institutional model is well honed, and the early and almost exclusive emphasis on institutional building deserves special attention. In some respects, the first 4 years of AKRSP correspond to the missing years in many delayed rural development schemes in the world." And in their next assessment after 10 years, they concluded that from 1982 to 1991, the per capita income in the program area was estimated to have doubled in real terms. In their other assessments, they did 4 really. In one, they stated economic rates of return among the best compared to other similar programs internationally, 16% to 33%. In these ranges are well above the opportunity cost of capital assured for Pakistan to be only 12%. In fact, in 2007, they brought out a book called Ending Poverty in South Asia, Ideas That Work. And this is what they wrote about, and I quote, "Pakistan experience with rural support programs demonstrates that social mobilization can work on a large scale, even in unfavorable climate of low growth, high poverty, weak democracy, and frequent changes of regime." In fact, in 1991, the SAARC heads of the state had set up an independent South Asia Commission for Poverty Alleviation. And the commission went to all the South Asian countries and also looked at AKRSP. And in fact, they recommended that the centerpiece of a policy framework for poverty alleviation has to be the mobilization of the poor in order to enable them to participate directly in the decisions that affect their lives and prospects. And they continued, they called it a socio-economic pillar to social guidance cannot be undertaken by government departments or NGOs. They're talking of a countrywide program. It requires an institutional mechanism which has the resources of the government and flexibility of an NGO, such as the Rural Support Program. And this was their overarching recommendation to the South Asian heads of states. Governments of South Asia should support financially and administratively the establishment of independent, non-governmental and national level support mechanisms to catalyze formation of organizations. Now, this is what this 3-tier structure of the communities, the institutions of the people takes the shape, beginning with the CO with 15 to 25 households, and then federating at VO when about 80% of these households have been organized in COs, and then federating at LSO, with whom we will be listening today. That is at the Union Council level as far as Pakistan is concerned. In India, it was Mandal, and every country, has their own. So if you're looking for a holistic model, which this is what it is, there has to be social organization, there has to be human resource development. At credit and savings, basically, in terms of support, the main thing here is the Community Investment Fund. There's a lot of confusion about CIF, but CIF is something which the people themselves want to engage in. We do not go with a preconceived package that what they should do. They identify what they are capable of doing, and this is directly linked to the potential that I talked earlier. It is interest-free, but it is a revolving fund. They're supposed to use it, return it, and then take it again. Then, of course, technical assistance in natural resource management, development of physical infrastructure, and the most important, linkages with government departments, because this whole structure, this three-tier structure that I spoke about, the purpose is that this should be used by government departments as a conduit for delivery of their services and supplies. If they don't do that, then the whole objective and the whole idea of putting them out, not only out of subsistence, but making them really much above that, that only happens because all the resources are with government, and unless government resources are channeled through these organized communities, because poverty is at the household level, and none of the government departments, whatever they may do, it is just not possible to reach each and every household. And RSPs, through these organized communities, make that possible. And that is what, basically, wherever it has happened, whether it was in Gilgit-Baltistan and Chitral or in India, the people, of course, came over the poverty very quickly. In Pakistan, this has happened, but very ad hoc. And I think sometimes it would happen, government will change, some other government will come, but still, RSPs are present in 149 districts out of 156. And they are really, if the government wants to reach, there are 54 million people in these organized communities that we have. And one hopes that one day it will happen. In terms of the outreach management, I mean, there are almost 12,000 professional staff which are involved in this. There are district, there are regional, and there are many other institutions which are working with this. There are almost 3,870 rural councils out of 5,684 where we are present, but not the way that we were present in AKRSP or the RSP Andhra program did it. And this shows that how in 20 years, because this is an approach which cannot be expanded, it can only be replicated. So whenever any government, especially after the recommendation of the Poverty Commission, would approach us, that why don't you start a program like that? And we will suggest to them that why not create a similar organization like AKRSP. The first application was Sarhad Rural Support Program, which was done by USAID. But the main really application happened in 1992 when government adopted it and National Rural Support Program was formed. But again, as I mentioned, within 6 months, government changed and we had a lot of trouble in surviving. But now it's the biggest RSP. And then, of course, we needed a trading organization. So the Institute of Rural Management came in. WAPDA wanted the hydro project, so we had GBTI. And then Tardeep was started to Save the Children Fund, and then it became part of the RSP and Punjab Rural Support Program, Balochistan Rural Support Program, and SGA is just one of the associates. They are not strictly an RSP. The last one was the Sindh Rural Support Program, which was organization which came into 2003. And roughly, I mean, they have almost 500,000 community organizations, almost 8.2 million rural households, 149 districts, as I mentioned, 4,432 union councils where they are, and about 30,000 village organizations, and 2,258 LSOs. Now let's look what they have achieved, and especially here, because we had a evaluation done by a program which was supported by European Union. In fact, in Pakistan, it is only the government of Sindh which really accepted the principles that I had spoken about. And we have now 18 districts of the province where social mobilization has or is working. And hopefully 12 of these districts are supported by government of Sindh, and 8 districts have been supported by European Union. The 8 districts where an evaluation was done recently, especially what the CIF achieves, you will see that there are about 311 LSOs which have a grant of 1.5 billion. Almost 88,000 members are using it, and 26,000 also revolved it. And you know, the main thing to remember is that this is only a one-time input in a household, which is about 17,552. But they are expected not to spend it, to use it and return it again. And then they can take it again if they have really used the money well and they have been able to earn that much money. Again, what is the thing for which this was used? Livestock, micro-enterprise, agriculture input. But as you will see, 82% CIF loan was used for livestock, 10% for agriculture, and 8% for micro-enterprise. There's a lot of sort of surprise and also sometimes suggestions that why so much on livestock. I mean, I must clarify that it's not our decision. I told you right in the beginning that CIF is the only incentive to get them organized. It's really an investment in organization. And this is directly linked to what they are willing to do, and hoping that with that money, they will be able to improve their livelihood. So we had no say in it. And when it was suggested that no, we should use CIF for enterprise or agriculture, that will defeat the very objective of the theory and principles that I described, which helped all over the world the poor. Now, what had happened, that even when we look at the benefits, especially the assets, because 54% of poverty is because of lack of assets. And you know how much asset the livestock creates for the household. I mean, if they've used it only for once, although we gave them 17,000, they have returned the money, and also they have an asset worth 33,000. If they used it twice, then they've returned the money, and again, they have an asset of 45,000. So average of 2 years was 38,894 in terms of assets created. Micro-enterprise, well, you can see 16,000 one cycle, 24,000 the second, and average is 20. But the main thing is that this is what really empowers women, livestock. Why 85% women took it? Because they have complete control on that. The money which they take for the enterprise, or sometimes, I mean, it is used not only by them, but by the menfolk also. But here they have complete control. They know how to manage it. And this is why the 216 baseline, where we took, for example, 100 as recipients, and we found in 2020 that 76% now were there in that category. And above poverty line, there were none. And now we found that within 4 years, 24% that crossed the poverty line. And again, I'll present another, which is external performance monitoring, which the EU undertakes regularly. This was probably the third mission. And they came to the conclusion that the poor segments and women were well targeted by RSP interventions. 99% of LSOs were managing CIF and 78% LSOs were revolving CIF. 86% of TVSC, this is the vocational training, which is for a very small number, unlike CIF. So there 45% beneficiaries had no jobs before. So they were almost creation of 41% new employment. And in terms of income, they showed that 1 to 3,000 were 64% CIF, 3 to 6,000 bracket, they were 29%, and 6,000 above 7. Of course, there was more investment in vocational training and the incomes also. But it was basically, the issue here is that how many people we want to reach. Do we want to only help a few and then leave the others? The whole approach, I mean, and success, for example, we are supposed to organize 750,000 households, and out of which 450,000 are below the poverty line. So whole objective is to reach them, and CIF is the only one which really can, if you get the money, although that also the money is only about 30%. What the EU monitoring said that the CAT session, this awareness session, increased social awareness, importance of education, health and hygiene, vaccination, registration of birth, CNIC registration, Nikah-nama. Women have realized the importance of organization and their role in poverty reduction. Women leadership created at local level self-help initiatives. Exposure to women, importance of women participation in joint. I mean, this is a new thing, government sitting with them, and women's exposure and linkages with it. And community resource persons, in the COVID-19, their response was amazing. Now, what we did in Pakistan, it had a regional impact, especially in India. In 2015, the Andhra project with World Bank, they said the origins of Andhra poverty reduction in the UNDP-supported South Asia Poverty Alleviation Program based on experience, including a rural support program. The Indian Minister for Rural Development in 2012 wrote, Shoaib Khan pioneered the concept through his landmark Aga Khan Rural Support Program in Pakistan. With the support of UNDP, he introduced the concept of poverty reduction through South Asian Poverty Program in India, which led to a full-fledged program and the Society for Elimination of Rural Poverty in Andhra Pradesh with support of World Bank. The project has seen the journey of over 10 million organized households from despair to hope, from diffidence to confidence, from subjugation to empowerment in the last decade. The spirit of community empowerment has continued to thrive in India since then. At the behest of Mr. Rahul Gandhi, Member of Parliament, Mr. Khan visited Uttar Pradesh and helped to reformulate the vision of Rajiv Gandhi Development Program, founded on the same set of core values and beliefs, and thus has much to benefit from Shoaib Khan's vision and effort. Indian Minister for Rural Development, Jairam Ramesh. The India World Bank Vice President once went with me to Indira. And then on her return, she sent me this email, and I quote, Shoaib Sultan Khan is a world-renowned expert in rural development and winner of Ramon Magsaysay Award. His pioneering work in India with the World Bank and Andhra Pradesh Poverty Reduction Project inspired setting up of India's National Rural Livelihoods Mission. This is the RGMVP website, and the Government of India's 5.1 billion National Rural Livelihood Mission is one of the world's largest initiatives to improve the livelihood of poor rural people. Household 70 million, comprising 350 million population. This is Robert Zaga, Country Director, World Bank. Miko Nishimoto, one of the vice presidents of the bank, was a great supporter of this program. In fact, after visiting AKRSP, she started in the bank VIP, Village Immersion Program, where bank sector managers would come and spend 15 days in the villages. I took her to Andhra. She wrote this to me. I quote, "I have just returned to Washington and did not want my time pass on by before sending you a note of deep appreciation for making my dream visit to AP possible. Every time I visit South Asia, I learn and grow as professional. But the visit to India with you was extraordinary in many ways. I gained invaluable insights into the foundations of poverty alleviation as an economist and a development banker. I feel I also grew a little wiser, perhaps as a human being. That fire in my belly is definitely back again, and so are the stars in my eyes. It was one of those trips I wished never to end, and felt as if I lived 1,000 lives now that it has ended. I do not know how to thank you enough. Thank you all the same from the bottom of my heart and with my soul. Miko Nishimoto, Vice President, the World Bank. Thank you very much.